Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, doing the solo stories, trying to catch up on those. Uh, Particularly right now when I'm in between recording other pre-recorded footage, it makes great amount of sense. We spent a long time going through the Legend of Heroes 4th chapter story last time. Hopefully we could get back to doing shorter stories. And honestly, at one point it felt like we were doing two of these solo stories in one episode even. um, but depending on just how much content is in one of these solo stories seems to drastically change the length of these episodes. And they never are going to be super consistent, but it'd be nice if they were all within about an hour and 20 minutes at most. So, next one down the list is Legend of the Starry Dragon. These others just have cleanup work that I need to do. The ones labeled clear, the ones completed, I've done everything on. You get every day, potentially, you're almost guaranteed another daily quest to play 3 games in solo. So, theoretically, I think you could play 3 games in solo every single day of the month and get that reward. But that reward is not particularly any better than any of the other daily rewards. So it is still very much a case where you are. Here, let me just show it instead of talking about it. It definitely seems like you're better off as far as just time management, to wait until almost the exact last day of the month, which for me would be 22 days from now, then play 3 solo modes and get that done. Otherwise, every other daily mission that you get is the same 40 gem reward for doing just about the same, on top of which each of these things can be achieved while playing ranked, which is your main focus in this game by far. Solo is this odd hanger-on element that gives you a little bit of rewards and forces you to play some different cards, but they really doesn't do much of anything. Arguably, the solo play deck challenges offered something slightly different there, because the deck challenges were kind of based on the first couple of series of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime. But in all fairness, I barely even recognized that in the second series. And so if they were to make a third deck challenge that was based on the third Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime series, I would probably not recognize much of any of it. Anyways, we're looking at the Legend of the Starry Dragon. The angelic white-winged Starry Knights fight by utilizing the power of Starry Knight, Starry Dragon, which descends from the hand. Their story is one of a battle waged in secrecy, passed down through legends told throughout countless ages. Okay. So it's kind of a trap card, it looks like. Yeah, and considerably less here. Just one scenario story here, then practice duel, unlock duel, and then a story wrap up here. Now, arguably, a lot of times we have seen scenario stories where it's just a somewhat short scenario story, then there's another somewhat short scenario story, and they could have just merged them together and given 2 rewards. But it seems like they're not willing to do that. They're more willing to make these bar graphs stretch on forever. And since we only see one story, I assume this is going to be a fairly long story. Is this a Christmas themed story? Seems like it is, which is interesting because I guess maybe they would have put this out right around Christmas. But they probably missed Christmas, if I was to guess. Because I'm playing this in April, and there's 2 expansions that have come out after that. So either you have to assume that between December 25th of 2022 and April 8th is the day I'm recording this of 2023, they released only 2 more single player story modes, which doesn't feel right. Or they did not actually get a Christmas themed expansion out in Christmas time. Generally speaking, Christmas themed elements to video games don't work very well anyways. They work a lot better than, say, Easter themed elements in video games, but generally speaking, there just isn't a lot of logic in making something that you really would only want to play within, say, a Christmas season somewhere between November 25th and December 25th. We're getting star effects. It kind of feels like star effects. There's a couple of twinkling elements we're seeing here, but a significant amount of these stars are actually just fading in and out. One starry night, some spend time with their family members, others spend time with the loved ones and pray for another day of peace and wellness. On this night, when the world is full of happiness, a certain ancient legend is told, the legend of the starry dragon. So, in the multiverse of different stories told and different characters in Yu-Gi-Oh!, I guess instead of Santa Claus, this story has a dragon. A holy dragon appears on a beautiful starry night with in white robe on in a white robe on its back. Now, I do not see a white robe on its back. I see kind of an angelic halo type gold thing on its back, floating above its back, and then I see it all in white as far as feathers, unless this is supposed to be the white robe. The good are given a blessing and guidance, while the wicked are thrown into holy fire that burns away evil. The tale is passed down from parent to child. I'd like some more explanation. Does the holy fire hurt people as it burns away evil? Does it kill people and burn away the people who are wicked completely? Because there's different ways that could certainly go. Like, if you're thrown into a magical holy fire and it doesn't hurt you at all, and then you come out, like, baptized, basically, or purified, and then that's still kind of a good thing. If it hurts while it happens, that's still probably a good thing, but it hurts. If it completely burns you to death and kills you and destroys you, then that's kind of a bad thing. In comparison to Santa Claus, there are the Germanic tales of Krampus, but yeah, who takes naughty kids away in cages, and then I think he also might just whip the somewhat naughty kids with sticks and not carry them away forever, and I think eat them. Moving on, the tale is passed down from parent to child. It transmits the parent's wish that their child lives a pure and righteous life, so they may one day receive the blessing of the holy dragon. Well, it also includes the threat of holy fire if they don't. This is why it has been told from generation to generation. Arguably, I will say, in the real world with Santa Claus, I don't think there's too many parents that are thinking it that detailed as far as hoping their kids have a pure and righteous life so Santa Claus will bring them presents. I think they just want to try and get their kids to be obedient and obey, and they're bribing them with presents and threatening them with the lack of presents, which is almost always a hollow threat. And there is a big difference between living a pure and righteous life, which is two, even those are two different descriptors. You could easily live a pure life and not live a righteous life, or live a righteous life and not live a pure life. But there is definitely much more nuance as far as parents just wanting their kids to obey. Generally, they just want them to obey blindly. For the uninformed, it is merely a fairy tale. However, there is a hidden truth to this story. Interesting, the story just kind of ends there, which makes me almost assume that either this is somehow going to be an incredibly short wrap-up story, or the Legend of the Starry Dragon is going to be continued in an expansion, and either then they have to put out an expansion that seems somewhat Christmas themed in some point after April of 2023, possibly waiting all the way until like Christmas season of 2023, or they're just going to wrap up the story really fast. I have this feeling that dragons, particularly more lately than ever, have really become more of a Asian thing than dragons being talked about, say, in medieval England, Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table stuff. That those stories and myths of Arthur and the Round Table, while occasionally you get people retelling those stories or putting a new twist on that, by far there's severely more dragons talked about in Asian cultures and anime and Korean, Chinese stories as such. Mahjong in particular has Mahjong being a very popular tile-based game in Asia, has this element of having 4 different dragons, a dragon for the north, south, east, and west. I think there's a dragon for north, south, east, and west. There might actually be a wind for north, south, east, and west, and just a red dragon and a white dragon in Mahjong. Yeah, I think it's just red dragons and white dragons. There is something, I guess, that is lost when you transition from more oral traditions to written in paper stories. They become enshrined as narratives, and so it creates this unwillingness, at least in the Western countries, to introduce new stories using concepts of, say, dragons in this case. Once that's already been done and used, which makes an argument that maybe into the 400 years from now, zombies will become things of myths and legends that don't get new stories told about them. Yeah, I would have to think that the last time there was a TV show in the West that had a dragon show up, it almost certainly would have had to have been like the Disney Channel Once Upon a Time live action show that was based on Disney characters, or maybe even going back as far as something like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Man, I am off topic today. Let's move on. What makes Starry Night deck unique? The main features of this deck is it's used to summon level 7 light dragon type monsters from your hand and return them to the field, from the field to the hand to activate a variety of effects. When you normal or special summon from the hand, Starry Night Dragon is a monster that provides strong support for a Starry Night deck, including an effect that destroys a card on the field. So this is very much the kinds of cards and the entire series of cards that would almost certainly only be playable with other Starry Night cards, which means that there's basically one deck that might be meta playable at some point in the past, that might have been meta playable at some point in the past, and then slight variations on that one deck, maybe 50 or 60 cards at most, that could potentially be in a deck with Starry Night Dragon out of 10,000 cards. Use the effects of your Starry Night cards to win the duel. Try summoning Starry Night Rydo. Alright, so we summon this, and that was a 4-star. So we now add Starry Night Sky from your hand to the deck. Or from your deck to your hand. I'm reading things back. Since you've activated the effect of our monster, the opponent will activate the effect of Starry Night Ceremony and resolve it. Which inherently, if you're doing a puzzle type tutorial thing here, and you're relying on the opponent doing something to activate the effects, you're effectively saying that these cards are not likely to be playable in real world play. Although in all fairness, in real world play, having a deck that can react to the opponent's actions in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is extremely important. Like, you get a lot of these chain effects and reactions, and counters and responses. Monsters have been special summoned to the opponent's field, but there are ways to deal with them. Activate Starry Night Balefire. Add Starry Night Estelle to your hand from the deck. So, activate this. Pick this. And it's all fine and dandy when they tell you specifically what card to add to your hand, but in real world play, I would look at the entire deck and have no clue which card to pick until I had really learned the strategy, and then once I'd learned the strategy, I'd know the cards to pick. But how long it would take me to learn the strategy is hard to determine. Arguably, I still haven't learned the strategy on my main deck, even now, a year after starting to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Activate Starry Night Sky. By its effect, you can normal summon either one Starry Night or one level 7 dragon type monster. This happens a lot too in these cards. It's like either you can do one thing or you can do the other, and the other seems weird always. Apply the effects of Starry Night Sky. Try summoning Starry Night Estelle. It says try, so am I gonna fail? Activate Starry Night Estelle's effect and select Starry Night Estelle as the target. Then special summon Starry Night Starry Dragon from your hand. You can target one light monster you control, tribute it. If you do it, special summon one level 7 light dragon from your hand. Well, wouldn't I have been able to just have used this field spell when I activated it to summon that instead? What's the special? Why would you sacrifice a card like that to end up with the same outcome? Next, let's activate the Starry Night Starry Dragon, special summon from your hand. Use the effect to destroy Seiryu on the opponent's field. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is still somewhat bad about having different looking prompts and OK buttons depending on what you're reacting to Sometimes it's slightly different looking. I skipped a line there. This effect will increase the attack of Starry Knight, Starry Dragon. Right, so this being in the graveyard was part of the plan to increase this attack. Interesting. What's interesting here too is it also seems like they've changed the way they do things here on this newer solo story, because it feels like in the past it has always been exactly the right amount of life points needed to win. But if you look at this, 3,500 plus 1,800 would give me 5,300, not 5,000. Plus, we also saw their cards being played by the opponent, and I've never seen an opponent actually play a card in these puzzle modes. Attack here with the bigger one that's been modified, just in case his attack somehow would have gone down after I attacked. Yeah, and even with being distracted, that still wasn't that long. Now we have a level 3, level 4, and level 5 duel, and that is potentially not as well documented as far as how difficult any level 3 puzzle is compared to a level 4 or level 5. The fact that they're giving you just a basic normal card is kind of crazy, but it is a super rare. But I don't know what justifies a normal card being a super rare though, unless that Seiryu really connects. These both look like fairly old cards. So let's give it a try with the loner deck. We'll give it one try. If we fail, I'll use my Zodiac Tri-Brigade deck and almost certainly win. This definitely would be a... Sorry, I'm chewing on ice. This definitely would have been a much harder series of videos to make if I didn't have the Zodiac Tri-Brigade deck. I definitely could have messed myself up and hit a wall. Okay. I don't know if I'm supposed to take this guy now, but I think that's probably a smarter move. Let's see. The thing I don't like about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that you can't put one of these field spells face down in a trap zone. But in reality, it would be fairly easy to cheat and put it face down in a spell trap zone. The only problem there is that if that field spell got destroyed and ended up in the graveyard, you would probably get called out for cheating. Alright. So we summon this. And the only other thing I could see is putting a trap card down by tributing this. And so more than likely this is a card you should have put face down in defense mode. During the main phase, so we should probably activate this now. And summon this. This is giving them the maximum amount of opportunities Oops, I should have not clicked yes there. I now attributed that card to potentially put like this face down. And see how when it put it that face down, it showed it to the opponent because it pulled it out of the deck, and your opponent has a right to know that you're not cheating and putting something that shouldn't be in the spell or trap zone down. And particularly, they have a right to know that the exact card you're pulling out from your deck, so they have that extra information that they otherwise wouldn't have had. Okay. I don't think there's anything else to do here. You attack with this. That didn't trigger a trap. You attack with this. That was less likely to trigger a trap. There's nothing to do in main phase 2, which is almost always the case. You could have done this. And come to think of it, I could have done this. And then I could have activated this. And I could have put that on the field. Which I guess I can then destroy this. Which forced him to activate it. And at that point I could merge 2 level 7 monsters. Which they almost never really push you in these solo stories to do things like this. But let's do it just for fun. We can target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, detach one material. If you do, attach the target as material. Then send your hand. Or if you do not have any in your hand, send your entire hand to the graveyard. Wait a minute, so if I was to do this and then this, let's go ahead and just activate that again. So we target this, we detach this, and that just moves things around. Yeah, that's all it does. I was reading a different card when you had to. It said you had to send your entire hand to the graveyard. I was reading this card. Its description. Okay. And the idea of more spell cards is probably not that necessary. And these other 2 cards as mergers don't seem that necessary. So there we've got our victory. The only other thing I think I could have possibly done is maybe special summoned that other creature and see if special summoning this and the other special summon may have had something we could have special summoned, but unlikely that that is the case. So that was a fairly easy fight. Now, noticeably here, we don't have enough to open this gate, which makes it seem to me like so far they've always given us enough resources to do this. And in this case, that does seem like that is still the case. So it wants 500. This gives you 150. And this gave you 150, which would have been 300. So you would have to play a lot of these solo stories in a somewhat linear fashion from the beginning at the top all the way down, or you are going to potentially run into situations where you don't have enough resources. That being said, we take out the 500 here, we're going to end up with just about 50 resources left. And I noticed that there's a 50 here, a 50 here, 0 here. It would make a lot of sense if they just got rid of these resources in such a way that the requirements either completely went away or they just stopped making gates require this. I have seen in the last episode we saw a gate that required having something else besides these secondary resources to unlock the gate, and I think that makes a lot more sense. Or inherently it would just make a lot of sense for you to have to go through the goal and it be finished before this gate unlocked. Just move this arrow and everything to the right one, or even move the arrow so it points directly up after the point for the extra challenges. Right. So now it looks like we're going to see some kind of angelic creatures on top of the dragon, or more humanoid angelic creatures. A truth hidden within the legend. There's a battle between the dragon and the evil beings. Since the beginning of time, there have been demonic beings that spread disaster. Many people were suffering because of these demons' mischief. The angel that watches over the people took pity and prayed to the heavens. So is this the people or are these the demons? They look like angels, certainly, but who's to say? In an answer to that holy prayer, starry night, starry dragon descended upon earth. The starry dragon unleashed the might of unleashed its might to save humankind. I don't know where I was going with that. Of 1,000 men, I guess is what I was thinking. The angels took arms as knights obedient to the will of the dragon and served to purge evil. So there are just angels that have come out of nowhere. The angels. Inherently, even in Japanese, this story is just not well told. It feels much more closer to a haiku than a short story. Just the angels took arms as knights obedient to the will of the dragon and served to purge the evil. Clearly, if I was, say, a creative writing teacher, I'd say, alright, so you have a general description outline here. Now, circle the angels and give me at least several pages of backstory on who the angels are. Where did they come from? What's their history? What is their way of thinking? What actions do they want? What is their goal? What is their eventual ending? If they are going to have an eventual ending. And do the same with the evil and the dragon. And then you could stretch out this general outline into at least 9 pages of content towards a short story. In shiny platinum armor, the white-winged angels soared through the starry sky. These angels were called the Starry Knights. Many of the demons were purged by the dragon and angels before they were even witnessed by humans. Yeah. The story being so simplistic does kind of just imply that they have retroactively decided to write a story based on cards. Which that may very well be the way the cards are designed, is that they have a good idea that is playable for what the effects will be for an effect card, whether it's a spell or an effect monster or something like that. Then they just give potentially random artists the job to write and draw a cool looking character image with probably very little guidance, and then that cool little character image potentially inspires a few more cool little characters to make a series, and then at a much later point they have writers try to write a narrative based on the pictures. Imagine if that was the standard way of doing like comic books though, where there's just a bunch of random pictures that look cool but have no narrative around it. I have heard of a review of one comic book that looked like it was done that way, but for the most part, no. You have to have the general outline first written. Moving on. No matter how much time passes, people will remain ignorant of the truth while they pass on the legend. The traces of the Holy Dragon and the angels silently disappear as they fulfill their duties. Now, the Holy Dragon, I assume it's supposed to actually just be Santa Claus, but you could see a direct parallel also to like one of the reindeer on Santa Claus's sleigh. It might be a slightly better comparison to that. To the twinkling stars flowing like the Milky Way, we give thanks to the holy blessings. And that's just the end of it. So for a story that is that short, you definitely would have expected it to come out on time around Christmas. And we've just unlocked Dragon Luster, so we've almost certainly already seen this pack. Yep. I own quite a lot of these cards already. And this, interestingly, is mostly focusing on the Dragon Maid card. Still. Which the Dragon Maid characters really do not connect to the story we just told. So yeah, I imagine the Dragon Maid concept came out later, and frankly it's just very inspired by a anime with Dragon Maid characters. But yeah, over half of these cards are in that Dragon Maid theme. And this definitely would not be a secret deck that would be a good candidate to try and open packs on. There's a lot of ultra rare and super rare cards that we don't have, but the odds of getting them are too low. Meanwhile, we'd get a lot of duplicate, normal, and rare cards, which I did spend some time actively crafting normal and super rare cards, and it didn't really change how many cards I had overall. Because this is a secret pack too, it's also important to point out that each pack gives you 8 cards, but only 4 of them are in this featured card set of 40 cards. The other 4 of them are in the general Master Duel pool of 7,352 cards. So you are much better off potentially buying a normal pack here that would give you 8 cards in a featured set of 85 cards in this example. But those are the actual cards you're interested in. Or if you just want random cards, you'd go with Master Duel packs. But even at that, I'm not sure if it makes a lot of sense to ever do Master Duel packs. You might have a better chance of getting duplicates and getting crafting points by still buying these normal, what I think are called selection packs. Yeah. And then bonus packs are not super useful depending on what kind of bonus pack they are. The legacy packs in particular are not super useful because they only give you 2 cards and they are incredibly old cards. Anniversary packs, though, they seemed somewhat useful, but there was a pool of 8 specific cards packs you could have opened, and then there was only an opportunity, it seemed at least, to open 3 of them, so you had to pick 3 out of 8, and maybe I picked wrong, maybe I didn't. Anyways, let's go back to the solo. That really just derailed the whole solo experience by taking us to the shop, which, yeah, that definitely highlights how their attempts to monetize this game derails the actual activity of playing the game, which is often the case when there's monetization. Pause now if you want to read all of this. We're going to get a card protector and then 2 more legacy packs from that. And I guess this could go pretty poorly at any point, now that they're going to throw real challenges at us. One thing that is definitely a problem and needs to be addressed with Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel in particular is its timer system just is not helpful, in the sense that, particularly when you're playing a deck like this where you're going to summon things to the hand and bring things from the deck to the hand, summon them to the field like crazy, you're almost certainly just going to let's see. Start with this. Yeah, you're almost certainly going to take a ridiculous amount of time trying to activate everything, and when you only have a diminishing 300 seconds to pull that all off, that can be let's see. No, I don't want to do that. I guess I could banish 5 cards from my extras deck. Let's see. Let's activate this effect and see what happens. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. We're gonna do this one at a time, aren't we? Yeah. So it's going to ask me each time for 5, and then after 5 it's going to give me a confirm button in the middle here, and we can go ahead and banish this card that's in the graveyard. I don't know why it separates the field spell out. Let's go ahead and get rid of the second copy of each of these cards. That still gives me a decent opportunity to play any of these cards. So yeah, now we click confirm. And that only gets it to 1100. So the idea of gaining 100 attack and defense for each face down banished card, and it can't be tributed nor used for that's quite a bit going on there. Quite a lot of cards. Let's see. Once per turn at the start of the damage stage, if this battles an opponent's monster, you can banish it face down, so yeah. So it attacks and just gets that out of the way, and that, I suppose, is the advantage there. And I guess the idea here is that you get it just somewhat safe enough so it can't be destroyed, and then it can just always clear the way to attack with other things. And if you're banishing your opponent's card face down, that's helpful. Now it's funny that they're face down, so that's not giving you extra advantage, and that feels like that would have been an idea added to Yu-Gi-Oh! Later on, that you would have face down banished cards. So theoretically, I guess that means you could put something in the graveyard face down, and all that work has not paid off particularly well. He managed to still destroy both of these cards, and he's going to just defeat this card. So unless I can do something with this, I'm going to be in a very bad position where I don't have any cards that I can activate. So I ran out of options. I used all my options at the beginning turn. Let's see, what are options now? Special summon something in the graveyard. That didn't let me chain or trigger this effect. I don't know if I have any level 4 cards that would be helpful here. Does this mean I could tribute one of their effect monsters? I mean, that's pretty much the only thing that would help me, so Nope. Okay, we should probably just activate this effect. So it made him banish one card and then draw one card. If he had more cards in his hand, he would have banished more cards. But I don't think that would have actually made him run out of cards or draw a bunch of cards extra. So it feels like there might have been a strategy here if you played multiple cards, where you could have banished a bunch of cards in your hand, then played that effect to make him banish a bunch of cards, and maybe make him run out of cards. Now I'm returning this to my hand to destroy and negate that effect. And it doesn't matter. And that does put me in the awkward position where almost certainly it would take one or two more retries to defeat that with that loner deck. But why bother with that when we can just once again show off the power and the diversity of Zodiac Tri-Brigade, in the sense of it just being very, very diverse is probably the wrong word. Compatible, perhaps? So here we can stop the strategy and cancel with that. Although arguably canceling the ability to draw cards, not the most useful thing to cancel. And we'll activate this, tossing this. To destroy that, activate that in the graveyard, tossing this, activating that in the graveyard, adding this to the hand, then we'll summon this, activating its ability to toss this. This is exactly what I mean though with when you have a timer, in that you can just inherently waste a lot of time activating your cards over and over again. There's not a lot to say as you cycle through all of this, other than you kind of have to memorize what each of these cards' abilities are. And then summon in the right order, whether you choose to end with Borbo or Trident. This time I'm going with Trident, so I can activate this effect to just go ahead and destroy this card. Okay. Now, we could either directly attack, or we can activate this, which would let me top that. And since we've done that, we might as well see if we can pull off maybe this one. Pulling out this character. Activate this. Returning that. And that's probably the best we can do. So you do that. You do that. And you do that for victory in the second turn, basically. Or first turn you can attack. And that particularly went rather well. And so now we've got 2 legacy packs. Alright. And then the next loner deck is here. It says XYZ summon with 3 or more monsters, including the Star Sapphire, to gain access to powerful effects. So it's giving you a bit of a hint even as to what you're supposed to do, which arguably there probably should be a box or a different color text or font that is a hint towards what to do. Probably something that you should click on that says click here for a hint, so it doesn't give you a hint if you don't want it. And above the hint should probably be at the bottom, and above that should probably be the storyline description in the dialogue. There is obviously more writing happening here, but let's see. Imperial Bower. Take 2 different monsters from your deck among Queen's Knight, King's Knight, Jack's Knight. I've seen these cards played before. Let's see how this works. Right. So, if I take Jack's Knight, yes, and put him here, and then I take Queen's Knight and put her there. Discard 1 card, special summon Queen's Knight from your deck, add 1 King's Knight or Jack's Knight from your deck to your hand, then immediately after this resolves normal. You can normal summon 1 monster. Okay, so let's try this. Probably played this wrong. Probably should have summoned this. So we went through a lot of work to do this whole night sequence, and this seems to be different options as far as what we wanted to summon. 3 warriors with different names for 2800 is probably our best bet. Arcane and Knight Joker now on the field. Pretty good starting spot. During any phase of this card is in your graveyard, you can target 1 light warrior in your graveyard, shuffle it to the deck. If you do, add this card to your hand. Sure. Why not? Then we'll stick that back in the deck. So it seems like you could just keep on doing that. In this case, I don't think I can actually use this trap, and the actual getting the Starry Night Dragon on the field, which you would think would be the strategy, seems to be fairly far away from the deck they've handed me. And we'll just set one of these like it's a trap, And then guess we'll set this face down. It really doesn't seem like there's anything else you can do. Clear the field and attack and then move on. You do get into this weird situation, certainly, where right now we've played 10 out of 40 cards and just haven't really seen anything else. Okay, that didn't work. So if we're not going to go with that, let's try it with this. This one, and then this one. Put that there. You can detach one card and then an XYZ monster. I don't think that was the right move. That definitely wasn't the right move. I screwed up there. Let's see. Is there anything we can do? Just pretend like you're playing a trap. Although it doesn't matter. The opponent in the PC is almost certainly going to attack no matter what, and even if you're playing against a human, pretending like you have a trap isn't going to stop somebody from attacking. People just don't hesitate in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's easier to just let your opponent activate a trap than it is to not attack. Let's see. I don't know why this guy showed up back like that, but I guess I'm kind of glad he did. Let's activate this ability since it's all we've got. And then I think that's probably our only option. Yeah, I think this is the only thing we can really do. And him playing strategies like for like is not helping. I guess I could have attacked and done 200 damage. And there we have once again been defeated. That being said, we're an hour into this episode. I play with the Zodiac Tri-Brigade just to win and end on a victory, I guess. And that'll be it for this episode. Wouldn't make a lot of sense to try and go and cover another solo story. Now, what might happen here is that we exit out of this and we see that yet another solo story has been unlocked, which that is somewhat believable. And in this case, you activate this effect. You toss this. This isn't your best starting hand. You activate this effect. Then you end up with this. Then you have to decide at that point, do you summon this normally? Probably, yes. And there's only one card here, so you wait till the next turn. And then I have a backup if he summons, special summons a bunch of stuff. Go ahead and activate this and negate this one's ability. If he special summons a bunch of things, I can activate this. Or if he destroys everything on the field, I can activate this to either destroy all attacking monsters or destroy all spell cards. Okay. Start with this. And then this is going to be a little crazy. Here. Here. Let's activate this effect and see what we can pull off here. Have only 2 cards to special summon with, which means we can only really pull this guy to the field, which then means we can only link summon using him for 2 points and this for 1 point. That guy. This will let me draw another card. Probably worth it to trade that one out. And even at that, I'm barely 100 over. So, unless I've just actively destroyed and wrecked his cards. See, I don't think he has anything in the graveyard I'd want to use this on. So we'll leave it at that. I'm going to need to draw some cards, or I'm going to need to get really lucky that he doesn't draw any playable cards for the next 3 or 4 turns, and that's not realistic. Special summon. Which one was he going to be face up? Yeah, let's just do it that way. Probably should have put him so that he would point downward to the angle or to the right. Wow, I'm really stretching the extent at the value of this deck and doing things that I usually don't have to do. So almost certainly that is an indication that this is a fairly challenging 5-star experience. Like normally this would just be easy street. I'm gonna go ahead and not try and destroy any face-up cards, and instead summon Borbo because there's nobody else on the field. We go here, we attack directly because of Borbo's ability for 1200. We go to main phase 2, we summon this, and then transform into Zeus. Zeus now, as a 12-star ultra rare card, can activate his ability as soon as this guy starts playing things. Kind of just want to wait till his attack phase happens Unless he summons something that can't be destroyed by Zeus. Maybe I should have destroyed that card faster. Yep. I should have destroyed the card faster. This is almost a direct comparison of how horrible a game like this could turn into, because your opponent would play a ridiculous amount of cards and you would play a ridiculous amount of cards. It's probably better to just summon 4 cards at the moment. Not because there's anything to banish, but just because he'll have more attack. Not quite enough attack though. Decent chance of victory now. He's only got 1 card in his hand and 1 card he's going to draw. I, of course, have no cards in my hand and only 1 card I'm going to draw. That being said, should just be able to activate this effect again. And even if I can only discard 3 this time, it's going to be placed in a point that this points to, which then triggers this. And just for ease of effect, we'll go ahead and trigger that too. Even though that's not really going to do anything. It's just going to stop the game from prompting me whether I want to activate that. So then that clears the field. There's basically nothing he could do. Very few cards end up in your hand that you can activate from your hand as a quick play spell. Could have just attacked with that to win. Alright, so we have cleared the story, although arguably you don't really have to even clear Duel 4 and 5 here, 4-star Duel and the 5-star Duel. You just have to clear the story by getting to the goal. And that did not unlock any new solo player story. I potentially will try to make one more episode around this, but it would kind of make sense to leave one hanging. Although honestly, it wouldn't be a big problem to just do all the stories. I still have plenty of cleanup for the daily quests to go back to, and yeah, being caught up would make a lot more sense. And yeah, I like that that was a shorter experience. That being said, still not really seeing a lot of value in these solo story things. They really are just taking up extra parts of my time, when instead we'll purchase some legacy packs here since we did get some. Yeah. Solo story really is just taking up a lot of my time instead of playing ranked play, which would be the better thing to do. And I wish I did have more free time in which I could just every now and then pop in and play ranked play on Yu-Gi-Oh, but I never do have that kind of free time, nor really even a desire to play Yu-Gi-Oh at that time, considering how I am spending at least 3 hours, probably much closer to 6 hours a week playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Already on my Monday, Wednesday, and Friday live streams. Yeah, and see, these legacy packs are all old cards, and you only get 2 cards. It would be a lot better if you got 8 cards, like all the other packs. These are the only packs that only give you 2 cards. And it doesn't feel like there's a heavy balance that you would get, like, ultra rares or super rares, or that you would get only new cards you haven't seen before. Legacy packs are clearly the packs they give away for free because they have very little value. Even if reward nostalgia for the first series of Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime cards, that's not what legacy packs really mean. Legacy packs means cards from the first few years of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, which Yu-Gi-Oh! Is 25 years old at this point, so yeah. First decade, potentially, of cards, with almost none of them being valuable or playable. Cards that painted the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game, from the most legendary cards to the rare ones covered by those in the know. Expand your horizons is how they describe it. It's a good thing you can't buy legacy packs with real world money. That would be annoying. But yeah. Is there anything else to really say? We could, I suppose, just dismantle the extra cards. Get another like 500 normal crafting points and 620 rare crafting points and 20 super rares and even 10 ultra rares. So that's a small benefit. I had about 6,000 normal crafting points and maybe about 5,000 rare crafting points in the last solo episode I made, and I just added a bunch of those cards, in particular effect monsters, so that I would have one copy of each and crafted it. And yeah, it didn't really give me a lot of cards, even getting down from 6,000 to 1,000. It was probably maybe 100 cards between rare and ultra rare in total. Anyways, we've done what I planned on doing here, so that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.